And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2024 National Championships. We are here at Bethel, Ohio at Lake Harsha, and we're going to enjoy a great day of racing here as we crown a new national champion for 2024 in Division 1. We are already off and racing in the fours. This is the D-level final, or final number 4 for Division 1.
So what we have here on the course, the boat closest to us on that screen is going to be SMU. There was a little bit of a lane shift due to weather. The safety committee has the right to shuffle lanes, so SMU is in the closest lane to us. Then followed by Northeastern is just above them. Rhode Island is going to be now in lane 4 and Jacksonville in lane 3. So Jacksonville is on the far side of the screen. Your early leader now is Rhode Island in that black boat. They are out of lane 4. Then it's neck and neck between Jacksonville and Northeastern for that second and third position. But did you just see that big move, that transition move? Keep an eye out for lane number 5, which is Northeastern in that white boat. Those maroon and white blades coming in and out, they're starting to move and get that advantage over Rhode Island in that black boat. On the far side is still Jacksonville, and closest to us is SMU. So we've got this angle from the side. You can see also on the screen that it is raining. These student athletes, they train day in and day out in every single condition. They're moving into the second 500 with Northeastern in the lead.
And just a quick note about the coverage. We do have our drones down due to FAA regulations, and we'll have them up as soon as it's safe for the participants and all of the spectators on shore. But meanwhile, our hardworking production crew will give the best coverage that we can on this 2,000-meter course, considering the conditions. So
we've got Northeastern. Northeastern is in that lane 5. They are, every time they are driving those legs down, their boat is responding. On that far end of the course, Jacksonville is still just right there, slightly advantage over Rhode Island. So Northeastern is your leader. Jacksonville is making a big charge on that outside of the lane. SMU is closest to the screen in that red boat. So it looks like SMU and Rhode Island are starting to just vie for that 4th and 3rd position. But your leader is still Northeastern, followed closely by Jacksonville.
And Northeastern here, courtesy of winning their conference, the Colonial Athletic Conference. So the Huskies right now doing a great job there out in front, now with a little bit of open water over SMU, a little bit of overlap actually over SMU. So stern of the Northeastern boat on the SMU boat, but then on the far shore, Jacksonville also doing a great job here. Head coach Mike Lane, he's in his 9th year of leading the Jacksonville team, and they're just coming off a 3-time conference sweep of the Metro Athletic Conference, and here again at the national championship. So the Dolphins doing a great job there out of lane 3 on the far shore.
So Northeastern, still your leaders. SMU is having that second position. If you keep your eye on a diagonal, there's that 1,000-meter mark, and you can line up those buoys now. So Northeastern is your leaders. SMU is in 2nd, Jacksonville in 3rd, and Rhode Island in that 4th position. Crews are now into the 3rd 500.
And it does look like SMU is making quite a charge here. These Mustangs trying to edge their bow ball up on the early lead of Northeastern. Northeastern's, this particular boat was seeded to be in that sort of 19th team of the country. So here they are representing and leading this final here, aiming to maintain that seeding. But SMU making it very, very challenging here in these conditions. Sometimes when it is raining, the benefit of that is that it does quiet down the water. We can see that it is almost near perfect as far as no ripples on the water, no waves or anything of that sort. So here it's just pure effort, pure working together with your teammates, just seeing what you can do, laying down your best 4 quarters of racing these 2,000-meter courses. And we see some red buoys come across the screen. That should mean that they are about in the last 750 meters of this race. It looks like SMU maybe put on a little bit of a move here. Here we can see the buoys to a line coming into that last 500 meters. I expect that SMU put on a little bit of a move there, trying to see can they edge their bow ball ahead of Northeastern before the 500-meter mark. Seeing a little bit of an uptick in the stroke right here across all crews as well as they near towards that last quarter of racing. So as we had it before at around the 750 mark, it was Northeastern, SMU, Jacksonville, and Rhode Island, but we do expect there to be a little bit of a shift as we come into the last quarter of racing. We can see Jacksonville on the far right-hand side of the screen pouring on the sauce here, trying to challenge Northeastern, who had that early lead in the start of the race through the middle. But as we come down to it, this is the sprint. Anything can happen, so we can see if they change up anything here in this last couple of minutes of this race. We can see that SMU on that far left-hand side of the screen has upticked in their rate as well. They must be close to Northeastern right off to the right-hand side. All four crews are through the last 500-meter mark, and so as they come here into the last few strokes before the red buoys begin, the red buoys meaning the last 250 meters of this race, we start to see them on screen here. The crews are approaching the last 250 meters of this race. We look at SMU. They look to have maybe taken a slight advantage over Northeastern at this point, but it's hard to tell. Those two lead crews are now into the last 250 meters. We can see those red buoys change. So when in rowing, red means go. So look at these crews. They are starting to go. SMU looks to have poured on a great move here. They are slightly now ahead of Northeastern. Look at this move that they made there over that 500-meter mark. They look to be about 3-4 seats ahead at this point. They want to take the lead away, and that they have. They are coming into this last 20 strokes here of this race. Northeastern also trying to battle it out here.
Very tight between those two crews as they come down to the final strokes at the line. The red hull on the near shore, that is SMU. They have a narrow margin over Northeastern right now as they are coming down as they are coming down to the final strokes. It's about a half of a length for these two lead crews over the rest of the field. SMU by about a half of a length as they cross the line. Jacksonville coming across now here in third place, just ahead of Rhode Island by a little bit of open water. We already have a start now here in the next race. This is the Division I 4's sea level final. This is for places 13 through 18 in the country right now. Points on the line for all of these crews in all of these races today. As you will see for this morning, as far as the lanes have shuffled a little bit, over on the far shore will be the lower numbered lanes. Near shore is higher numbered lanes. So out in lane 1 you will have Gonzaga. In lane 2, Boston. Lane 3, Indiana. Lane 4, Duke. Lane 5, Virginia. And in lane 6, Ohio State. So those crews, Ohio State, Virginia, and Duke, are going to be the crews that'll be the closest to you once they start to approach the shore. And then you will have Indiana, Boston, and Gonzaga over on the far side of the race course. Right now, very, very tight racing as we are 500 meters into this race. We're now into the second 500 meters of the race. It looks like the Duke Blue Devils are out in front right now ahead of the other crews, ahead of Virginia and ahead of Ohio State.
And we see the red buoys here crossing over this landmark. I think the first 500 meters of this race here.
So that is still Duke out in front. Looks like they're... Yeah, that is Duke out in front.
It looks like they are up. It's very tight between Duke and Virginia right now. Those two schools out of the ACC. Duke by a narrow margin. Virginia took them down in the race yesterday. Duke was the ACC, the winner of the four at the ACC championship. So these two crews, who are your lead crews right now, there in the picture, that's Virginia with the bucket rig. Those two oars that are on the same side together. They have those orange blades. You can see the Blue Devils of Duke right next to them as well. Are your two lead crews, those blue blades with the Duke D on them. So Duke in the white hull, Virginia in the darker shaded hull. They are out by, they haven't quite left the field behind them. You have Ohio State on the near shore lane. That's Ohio State just to the left of the picture in the yellow hull, just still in contact with the Virginia stern deck. Duke with a narrow margin, but Virginia on the move here. It seems that they've cut down that lead that Duke has had on them. We are now past halfway of this race, and all crews are push and go. You can see both Duke and Virginia have made some sort of focus there to see if they can make sure that they maintain boat speed and just keep putting space between them and the rest of the field. As we say that distance between Duke and Virginia and everyone else is opening up to an open water lead, just about 3 seconds on them and the rest of the field.
It does look like Virginia started to move on Ohio State there at that point, or on Duke, excuse me. So they now, their bow balls are probably only about a foot apart at this point, but I think that the momentum is with Virginia. Shell named after Christine O'Brien, an Olympian out of the 2020 games, and so they're taking that power and legend with them. So their bow ball now maybe just be exchanging there at that point with Duke. What an exciting thick of race in this third quarter of racing.
You can see just before the camera angle changed that Virginia definitely was cutting down the lead that Duke had coming across the 1,000, and having that momentum in your favor is certainly something that psychologically out on the water you want to have. It builds your confidence going, hey, we didn't have to do anything dramatic, just what we're doing is more effective per stroke. So the coxswains can play into that language and be able to help encourage the crews, because right now is where everything, they are really feeling it in the legs, in the lungs. The rain is on top of them right now, but that's helping them stay internally focused, also helping them stay a little cooler, which will help them perform.
So on the screen here, it is Gonzaga on the right-hand side. Boston is right next to them out of lane 2. Indiana's 3. And we see Duke just on the left-hand side of the screen charging hard. Now, the question mark we still have is Duke still in the lead, or did Virginia start moving? But right here on the left-hand part of the screen, that is Duke. And then right next to Duke on the right-hand side is Indiana, Boston, then Gonzaga. And it looks like from this vantage point, Gonzaga is overtaking Boston. So they're charging hard. They're right next to, but they're also looking through Boston over to Indiana. So it's too close to call on this angle between Gonzaga and Indiana. But Duke is still the Chargers. But here comes a little in view. Virginia is coming in back into that screen. And here we go.
So Virginia had the fastest third 500 there. They are the crew that is in the lead at this point in the race. So they were able to find some dig into that grit that they have as a team, as a culture, and find a little more. So right now Virginia is your leader. Second fastest third 500 was Duke, also followed by, Ohio State had a quick third 500 as well. So those are the three crews that moved the fastest through the last 500 meters of the race. Ohio State was in third place as we crossed the 1,000, but Gonzaga was the one on the move on the outside lane on the far shore. So in the picture, Virginia in the lead, Duke in second, Ohio State in third, and Gonzaga over on the far side. Keep an eye on them. They're having a sneak attack out there in that far side lane. They are staying internal for what they need to do, and it's helping them over on the far side. Virginia and Duke out of the ACC, battling it out yet one more time on this season. Virginia by almost a length over Duke right now as they are sprinting hard. Those two crews have left the rest of the field behind. Ohio State is in third place, solid with about a half length to a length over Gonzaga, who is just ahead of Indiana as these crews are sprinting toward the line. Ohio State open water back, Indiana and Gonzaga very close. Half a length or less separates Gonzaga and Indiana. Indiana charging hard and cutting down that margin, but the horns are about to happen. Gonzaga unofficially across in fourth, just barely ahead of Indiana. Boston coming across the line as well, routing out the field of 6. That was for places 13 through 18 in the country. The 4, all of these races, the 4, the second varsity 8, first varsity 8, score points toward those team totals. And with 2 races already down, team points are already starting to go up on the board. By the end of the morning's program, we will have a national champion, but we will also have places 1 through 22 in the country.
So the C and D finals for the 4s are done, and now we're going to be moving on to the second 8s. D final followed by the second 8 C final. We're going to have a start shortly for the second 8 D final. Crews are already up at the start, waiting for the official start. And we have a view up from the start of the race course. The next event, second 8 D final. Rhode Island will be out of lane 3. Jacksonville will be out of lane 4. SMU will be in lane 5, and Northeastern lane 6.
And as we await the coverage of the start, I just want to give a quick shout out to our referees that are here in this pouring rain. Under any conditions, they give us a lot of their service to make sure that our racing is fair and safe. So special shout out right now to Lynn Wilder. She's a former accomplished rower celebrating 37 years of serving as a U.S. and international referee, and in fact has been the chief at NCAA championships 4 times. The 2024 championships are Lynn's last event as a referee, and we want to thank her and celebrate her many years of dedicated service to this sport. A little bit of pause in racing here as we wait for a start. We'll be able to see some flashes of blades as they come towards us, and there they go. So we do have a start right now, just 4 boats on the course here in this Division I second 8. This is final number 4 for places 19 through 22 in the nation. Right now we've got Rhode Island out of lane 2, Jacksonville in lane 3, SMU in lane 4, and Northeastern in lane 5.
Northeastern and SMU were your fastest qualifying boats into this final. But the first 500 and last race of this NCAA championships, it's all nice what you do on the heats day and the semi day, but this is finals day, and this is just a whole new story.
That's right. This is where you want to improve on what you did previously. You want to improve on what you did in the semifinals, improve on what you did in the heats, and make this your best race of the regatta. Maybe you're going for a time, maybe you're going for a feel, but just ending that season on such a high note. And in fact, some of these crews are not actually ending their season. They're going to go on to a postseason. We know that Rhode Island is moving on to Henley later on this summer. I mean, what a carrot to put out in front of your crew. Like, let's go, let's keep just training through, and let's make it happen.
On the left-hand side of your screen is Northeastern. They seem to have their bow slightly into the lead, but on the right-hand side is Rhode Island. They do have a fast 500 in the previous races that we've seen. SMU is in this red boat on the right-hand side of your screen, and just going out of that screen was Jacksonville. So here is here's Northeastern. Northeastern is in that yellow boat. They are out of lane 6, and they are closest to us. And right next to Northeastern is SMU, and just on the far end of that screen in that dark boat will be Rhode Island.
Yeah, and right now we're looking at a great move here, very aggressive rowing here by Northeastern, the Huskies, as they come up to about a 6-seat lead over Rhode Island. So both crews on either side of the shore. So we've got sandwiched in the middle, nice tight racing there between SMU and Jacksonville. So right now SMU in that third place position, sitting about 3 seats over Jacksonville.
And Rhode Island seems to be putting on a big move here at this point, just after that jut of land. Seems to be a landmark spot that a lot of athletes are using to be able to put in a little bit of a move, maybe trying to edge a little bit against the field. It does look like Northeastern is still in the lead. In this lineup, it has the most seniors of this squad in this boat, so we were talking about being able to put together your best race here within this combination, but for a lot of these athletes, it may be their last race of their collegiate career. So kudos to Northeastern in being able to put together a very strong middle 1,000 here at this point. Rhode Island pouring it on here as well. SMU, their bow ball maybe just a little touch behind Rhode Island here at this point. Jacksonville a little bit behind the field.
Yeah, so Indiana or Northeastern here in the front hand side of the screen in that yellow boat. Charging. As you see the legs go down, what is really good about the boat responding is it's surging, and that's exactly what you want to do. As those blades are in at the front end, they have that connection through the core, through the glutes, and as long as you find that bend in the oar, that means they're shoving their bow farther into the lead. But SMU and the race between SMU and Rhode Island is very, very tight between those two. It seems every time we want to call SMU into the lead, Rhode Island's not going away, but
yeah,
SMU is really pushing.
Looking good there. The Rams looking great, strong, really coming on strong here in this third 500 as they push their bow a little bit further into Northeastern's lead. We're going to look at SMU as well. Late charge here in this third 500 as SMU continues to kind of bite into Northeastern's lead. So neck and neck, SMU and Rhode Island as we come into the final 500 meters here.
If you're following results on regattatiming.com, the 1,000-meter mark, the split between Rhode Island and SMU was 0.3. So it is going to be a tight third 500 between Rhode Island and SMU. They've just been charging, but, you know, Northeastern has just been really dominating, and it's probably because that front-end connection, that leg drive, they really are locked in.
Yeah, and those coxswains looking across at SMU looking across at that Rhode Island boat. They've got to know how close they are, and the athletes can really feel the intensity generated, the energy that they generate from each other on the race course, even in conditions that are not necessarily ideal. This is beautiful water, but with the rain, maybe giving just a little bit of some more focus, actually, more focus on just getting the task at hand done, getting the best finish that they can. And as we move forward towards the finish line, is it Northeastern or are SMU and Rhode Island pushing each other so hard that they might be able to come into one of those lead spots? We'll keep an eye on that as we progress further into the spectator area.
I know with this shot, that red boat just keeps, it's easier to see, but you cannot forget about Rhode Island in that darker boat. Northeastern is still just on the left-hand side of your screen. SMU's in that red boat, and Rhode Island is on the right-hand side of that screen, and it is going to be stroke per stroke.
And it was SMU that had that fastest third 500, so they felt the heat of that middle, that second 500 that Rhode Island put on, and that really goaded the SMU coxswain to push them forward. So SMU had the fastest third 500, which has put them back into second place. Rhode Island had crossed the 1,000 in second, but now that lead has flip-flopped again. About 2 seconds separated those two crews, so just about 3/4 of a length, and SMU is pouring on the heat and putting pressure on our longtime leaders, Northeastern, because SMU's third 500 was faster than Northeastern, so they ate into that Northeastern lead by about a half a length or more in the third 500, so that's the confidence boost. That's the full program that you want to see out of crews, where it develops with every stroke they take. Very tight between these two crews that are out in front. Northeastern on the near shore in the yellow hull, SMU in that quintessential red SMU hull out of Texas, and they are charging hard because they want their bow across first. They are still just a nose down to Northeastern, hanging on all the way to the end. Bow ball of SMU right about between 2 and 3 seat of Northeastern. Northeastern across just barely ahead of SMU, and Rhode Island about a half a length down to SMU as they across the line. Jacksonville rounding out the field of 4. But boy, what a middle thousand by that crew from Texas, SMU. But across in first, unofficially, Northeastern. Fantastic racing through the middle as well out of Rhode Island. They were not here last year, so fantastic to see them back this year and also making moves from their placement, of course, from last season.
I'm so impressed by Northeastern. I mean, when you sell it so hard in the first 1,000, and then you've got that strong third 500, feeling a crew like SMU come onto you, but not getting antsy or ruining that length. They
not
just
letting the wheels come
You got to
off.
win by an inch, and they won by more than an inch, but that was very, very gutsy.
Absolutely, and we have a race underway in the second eights. This is the C final, so securing spots 13 through 18 here at this NCAA champ.
Yes, sir. Power. I'll get somebody. Oh, it's back. It's back. Johnson.
I know you lost power. Stand
No, I'm gonna throw it. I got it back.
in the country. As you will see them on the course, we have shuffled the lanes from the far side of the picture, the right of the picture, to the near side. It is going to be SMU, Jacksonville, Rhode Island, and Boston. So that's Boston University there in the dark hull on the inside with the red unis on that is closest to the shore, that looks to be out in front, but a very, very tightly contested by Rhode Island. Rhode Island is right there moving along with them as well. And then over on the far side is SMU. Boston still out in front there. You can see them with kind of the more aggressive start here on the course this morning. They set the tone early in terms of speed and have maintained their lead so far. But it looks as though in the lane next to them, Rhode Island is on the advance here as well. Only Jacksonville just a little off of the pace right now. Jacksonville and SMU over on the far side. Those are your two trailing crews at this present moment. But Rhode Island seems to be on the advance. Boston out in front, of course. Boston and Rhode Island are two of the crews that weren't here last year. They unfortunately fell short of the 22 teams that are here, and here they are showing that they have taken a step forward from last year by being here and racing hard. For those of you that don't know, there are about 89 Division I women's rowing programs in this country, but only 22 make it this far. So all 22 of these teams representative of the growth of women's rowing across the country and also the elevation of speed. So all of these crews, again, racing for the clout to say we're top 22 in the country. That is Boston still out in front. Rhode Island looking like they're staying calm there right next to them and still hanging with them, potentially making a small move here. You can see over on the far side of the course, SMU looked as though they push the gas a little bit to see if they can put themselves solidly back in play with the top two crews. Jacksonville and SMU are still very well in this race. Boston got out in front early, and they just seem to be sitting there, and the pressure is still being put on by Rhode Island there.
Absolutely. I can see the effort and motion out of the stroke. See Katie Castle over in the Rhode Island boat. She is one of the CRCA athletes to watch. Also was in the U23 women's quad, so bringing a lot of international experience to this final of racing here within her seat, leading her crew with that rhythm, with that communication, and with that resilience.
You know, and it looks as though Jacksonville still has a margin over SMU as well. As the angled trues here will get you better information, but they are certainly in third place right now. So as it stands at this moment, Boston is our still leader, who looks like they are pushing back out on that move that Rhode Island had on that of the space that Rhode Island was gaining back on them. So Boston still out in front, Rhode Island in second, Jacksonville currently in third, followed by SMU, but very close between those two crews as well. About to check off another 500-meter mark as the crews approach the shore, and where we are going to start seeing some sprinting unravel here very shortly.
Absolutely. One of the things we heard from the coach of URI was that one of the sayings of this team is for each other, with each other. And that's something you feel is really sending this crew through the third 500 as they approach. We can the 500-meter mark. We see some of the red buoys lining up to cross into this last quarter of racing. But it still is Boston out in front, Rhode Island, JMU, and SMU.
Jacksonville took 22nd in this event last year, so coming across ahead of SMU would be a step forward for them as well. So all crews across the board certainly racing hard to the line. Boston still out in front on that near shore in the red blades, in the red unis. If you can see them from shore, give them a holler to let them know that you're here supporting them all the way down the course. Even though they're 500 meters away, still just about 500 meters away, they can hear you where they are. This water will carry your voices, your cheers, your cowbells, whatever it is that you have, because Rhode Island's still on the advance. Looks like they want us. They're sitting a little taller in their seats, too, it seems. They're sitting a little more stacked and simply in that Rhode Island crew. So you can see that they're coming together even as the fatigue is deep within the legs and lungs at this point. And that cleanliness is going to help them make better use of the speed, the energy that they have. Boston's still out in front. Rhode Island on the move.
And it does look like these crews are just about to cross their bow bells into the last 250 meters as those buoys turn from white to red. They are seeing red now. BU leading that charge, but Rhode Island right there with them, if not on the move here to maybe get their bow ball out just ahead of Boston. We'll see what can happen here on this side. But look at that charge out of SMU on the far side of the course as well. Over in lane 4.
It was nearly 4 boats across as they crossed that 500 meters to go. Rhode Island was the fastest third 500, close to fastest third 500 here. They were not in the lead, but they certainly were on the charge as we saw. And we'll see if that confidence, that trajectory, that momentum remains in their favor, as it looks to be the case. Rhode Island has tracked down Boston here and put themselves very much in the lead of this race through that fourth 500 by about a half of a length. The advantage is in Rhode Island's favor. Boston fighting hard. Jacksonville very narrowly over SMU on the far side, about a quarter of a length to a half a length for Jacksonville right now. So unofficially across, Rhode Island in first, coming in 19th in the country. Boston in second in this race. Third is Jacksonville, and fourth is SMU over on the far side. So all crews, the 3 crews on the near side, you've got Boston, you've got Jacksonville, so Rhode Island, Boston, Jacksonville, those 3 crews took a next step from their results from last year. So all 3 of those crews improved in their placement in the country. For those of you who are watching at home, for those of you watching here on shore, we are bringing you the best coverage that we can. If you have your phone or you have a device that has hookup capability, go to regattatiming.com. You can even find the splits there per 500. You can see who's moving faster in certain areas of the race, who comes across each major checkpoint. So that will help you keep an eye on what's going on the course as well.
Now we have in the starting blocks getting ready to go the third level final, the C final of the first varsity 8s. Over in lane 1 we have Northeastern. Lane 2, Gonzaga. Lane 3, Virginia. Lane 4, Duke. Indiana in lane 5. Rutgers in lane 6.
Looks absolutely beautiful up at the start. Really calm water here. Rain is kind of slowing down, so we're going to get back to those absolutely beautiful conditions that we have seen all weekend here at Lake Harsha. Just such an ideal environment to have a championship. A great Sunday morning. We're going to get ready to go here in the Division I First 8s Final C.
So as the crews are locked on to the stake boats, from the left-hand side of the screen will be Rutgers in lane number 6. Lane number 5 will be Indiana. Lane 4, Duke. Lane 3, Virginia. You can barely see those yellow unisuit tops on the right-hand side of that screen. Then just out of the screen is lane 2 of Gonzaga. And then lane 1 is going to be Northeastern.
all crews getting aligned, nice and still up at the start. Had a chance to talk to some of the athletes over the course of the weekend, and one of them responded that one of their favorite times in the race was actually just at the start, waiting and taking that deep breath, taking a look at the woman in front and knowing that they had each other's back, and thinking about what they were about to do and what they had done all season training to get to this point. This is really a special moment when it's absolutely still and quiet and everyone's minds are just focused on the task at hand.
Nerves are at the highest end, but what grounds most athletes is, I just have a job to do. I need to back my teammate up and just breathe.
And knowing that they're not alone, right? It's not just about one athlete, it's about the entire crew. All 9 athletes working together. That coxswain really key in settling some of those nerves, reminding everyone, don't forget to take a breath.
To smile. And, check your oarlocks. Make sure everything is tight. Redouble check them. Tight, tight. And nice and calm conditions, too. We did have that little, rainstorm come through, but now it, I think, would you rather kind of game. Like, would you rather have calm water? Yes.
Calm water and pouring rain? Absolutely.
So just another lane set the stage just as a reminder from this vantage point for the far right-hand side of the screen. That's lane number 1. That will be Northeastern. Lane 2 in the white shell with the white top unisuits is Gonzaga. Virginia in that darker colored boat, orange top unisuits is lane 3. Duke will be lane 4. Indiana will be lane 5, and they're just to the left of the screen. The launch just uncovered them, and now the placard of who's who is covering them again. And in lane 6 is Rutgers.
Yes, a slight delay here in the start, so there must be something going on. We're not really getting an update on that, but obviously the most important thing is to make sure that the racing is fair, everything is going to go off perfectly aligned, and just special shout out again to our aligner Bob Whitford. He has been at the NCAA Women's Championships 26 years in a row. He is absolutely an expert at what he does, so we know that we're in good hands.
The liner sits on the side, usually either on their separate dock, but they have a direct vantage point of bows across, and he did his job because we have a start. So this is the C final of the first 8s. So we'll sort out places 13th through 18th.
Near side on the screen now is Rutgers. Next to them, Indiana. Duke on their other side, and then on the far side, as next to them is UVA, Gonzaga, and Northeastern at this point. Early strokes. Bow balls across. Very, very tight here. Love to see this angle. You see, we were talking about the nerves at the start. Those are the horses biting at the bit, ready to go, and here they are. Look at these bow balls jockeying for position here in this first 250 meters of racing.
Rutgers had a really good first 10, and then Indiana is now pushing right with them, and as they extend their power curve and extend their full throttle up at the start. But we've got bows across. I know out of lane 2 is, or out of lane 3 is Virginia and Gonzaga, and lane 2 at the far end. You kind of see them surging a bit, but I see that yellow boat kind of poking just a little bit farther ahead. That is Indiana, just maybe a hair above Rutgers, who is just right here into that screen. But Rutgers and Duke are now kind of going bow, 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 bow. But look at that gray shell through that. And that's UVA, that's Virginia, that's out of lane 3. So we've got Virginia, Duke, Rutgers kind of trading inches on whoever's at the finish. But Indiana still kind of looks like they are slightly in the lead as this first 500 is over.
Yeah, Indiana really on the move here, kind of settling into their base pace and taking just a little bit of that lead away from Virginia, but really blades kind of in the water at the same time, Indiana and Virginia, so they're just pacing each other, and those two crews pulled ahead by about 2 seats over our third place crew, which is Duke right now. But Gonzaga also right there, Duke and Gonzaga neck and neck. Right next to them, that'll be Northeastern. Northeastern in 5th place, and then Rutgers in 6th. But right now, looking at a great move here by Virginia. They just kind of took off, take a big power move there, now extending their lead out 4 seats over Indiana.
And that's the beauty of the backside of the second 500. I mean, you've got an explosive first 500, but who has that sustainable speed and that foundation, and who can just make sure that their speed going into this middle 1,000 is true and at that red line that they've trained for. But that yellow boat, Indiana, still kind of neck and neck with this Rutgers boat. It seems like those two crews, I mean, qualifying, that's how they're earning this lane 5s and lane 6 based off of the heats and the semis. But you cannot take for granted lane 3, which is Virginia, that gray boat. But for me, it's right now, it's still Indiana, Rutgers, Virginia, I mean, and then Duke is just kind of dangerous sitting right there too. They've got plenty of contact. They're in between Indiana and Virginia, but Virginia keeps going through. If we could just maybe get a little bit wider, we could see maybe those bow balls, but it's still anybody's game of Rutgers, Indiana, and Virginia. But Duke just needs about half a boat length until they're level.
It looked like just a moment ago Virginia was trying to sneak past Indiana right there as those bows just changed, and so it was Indiana still out in front. Virginia look on the charge for sure. Over on the far side you have Gonzaga and Northeastern fighting it out for our rounding out 5 and 6th place, but Virginia out in front by what looks to be a part of a length.
Just a little bit, actually, just a little bit of a bow.
Virginia is moving.
Certainly moving. So Virginia's moving. Rutgers is just behind Indiana. Rutgers in the red hull. Virginia with the orange blades out in front in the silver hull. Duke also still in there in the mix in that white hull. So every hull out here is almost a different color. Far side Rutgers. Rutgers looks like they're trying to make a move too, being feisty and gutsy out there. As you can see, their bow ball on the advance of the Indiana crew. Both of those Big Ten schools have raced each other several times throughout the season. So they've been going back and forth, duking it out, kind of know each other's MOs potentially, and looking to see if they can poke some holes in the confidence. Duke still well within there. You can see them adjusting kind of stroke rate strategy as well, a little bit energy coming out of the Duke hull, making sure that they stay in there. Virginia just out in front over Indiana in 2nd, Rutgers in 3rd, and Duke is hanging in there as well. Gonzaga in 5th, Northeastern in 6th at this present moment.
Fantastic race here on the part of the Rutgers crew. The Indiana, this boat in particular, took away a 2nd place finish at the Big Ten's, their highest finish for Indiana in their program, but it does look like perhaps
a hair for Virginia, a hair with 500 meters to go.
But
Indiana now on the
has
advance.
an answer.
Yes.
Every time Virginia wants to take the lead, Indiana is just saying, this is our race plan. I mean, this is going to be a fabulous last 500. Indiana, Virginia, and then right through, I mean, Rutgers. You cannot cut out Rutgers because you know what? The coxswain, Victoria Greider, she has tons of experience because she's our 2023 U23 Women's 8 coxswain. So she knows the information to give and who is going to have that last sprinting speed.
And that Virginia coxswain, Nora Grabczewski, she needs to keep an eye on Indiana and what they're doing on the far side of the course, because Indiana is advancing hard, being pushed by Rutgers, so they know they have to be on the move as well. Virginia into the red buoys here as they know that they need to sprint all the way across the line because Indiana is right there with them. These crews have seen each other earlier in the season as well. Indiana showing speed out of the Big Ten, Virginia showing speed out of the ACC, Duke out of the ACC as well. So it's a Big Ten ACC duel here happening on the water. Indiana sprinting hard now as well on the inside shore, and it is tight between Indiana and Virginia. These two crews need to sit strong and stay buried, push those legs hard, and let the boats sing for them to bring it across the line. Virginia in the silver hull and the orange blades, Indiana in the yellow hull with the maroon. Virginia with the margin right now over Indiana by about not quite half a length for Virginia as they cross the line. Rutgers still in contact, bow ball right around 7 seat of the Indiana crew. Duke coming across just still in contact with Rutgers. Gonzaga in contact as well, and so is Northeastern. Contact across the board here for all crews 1 through 6. So 13th through 18th place in the country just happened right there. Remember, 89 teams in this country, and that's 13 through 18 on the water in the Division I First 8s. Virginia followed by Indiana, then Rutgers, Duke, Gonzaga, and Northeastern unofficially.
So the D finals and C finals are done, and now we're moving on to the B and A finals. So up here now is the 4 event. The varsity 4s B final, places 7th through 12th. In lane 1, we've got Pennsylvania. Lane 2, Syracuse. Lane 3, Brown. Lane 4, Rutgers. Lane 5, California. And lane 6, Michigan. Crews are in the first 500, and now that we've got a full screen, here is Michigan on the left-hand side of the screen, slightly lead over California out of lane 5. They are on the left-hand side of the screen, but look all the way over to the right. Pennsylvania out of lane 1. They're challenging California. They're using that energy with Syracuse, because Syracuse is also in lane 2, but first 500 is done because you can see that little tent on the left-hand side of the screen. Crews are moving now into the second 500. Michigan is leading the pack, closely followed by California in lane 5. Then it's going to be a battle for that third position. Pennsylvania currently owns it, but so close is Syracuse in lane 2, and then Brown in lane 3 is starting to charge as well. Brown is in lane 3. They're challenging now Pennsylvania out of lane 1. But Michigan has almost, their stern deck is overlapping the bow deck of California. Places first and second.
Over on the far side, Michigan and California here on the near shore lanes need to keep an eye on that Pennsylvania crew. So Penn with Syracuse next to them, and then Brown next to them as well. It's Brown and Penn out of the Ivies that are just ahead of Syracuse out of the ACC. Penn is the leader of those 3 crews, and Penn starting to push in also in what Cal's doing as well. As we shift kind of angles here, you'll start to see Michigan still out in front, looking to lengthen. They certainly had speed that we've seen over the course of the weekend so far, so looking for the best piece for them out of this 3 days of racing here in Ohio. Michigan now seems to be a length ahead of anyone else in the race right now. Cal still looking to maintain that lead, but look at Brown as well in the middle of the course. All crews still very tight and plenty of race left to be rode for these 4s.
So we've been mentioning everybody but Rutgers, and you know Rutgers has plenty of contact with the field. They are in lane 4. They are just next to California, so they've got plenty of overlap with Syracuse. So places 1 through 6 has contact. Here comes the side view leading into the third 500. Michigan is still your leader. California is in second. Brown now is in that third position, and it's going to be a really great race between Penn and Brown for that 4th and 5th position. But still, look at it. I mean, lane 2, Syracuse has contact. Rutgers has contact, a little bit of an advantage over Syracuse. There's a lot of positioning within the pack.
Michigan's still over there. It's almost there next to the trees. They have a little bit of peace and calm on on one side.
Locked in.
Everything's over on the other side of the course. The coxswain could just maybe keep an ear out for what's going on, because remember, these coxswains are in the bow. So if you're out in front like that, you don't have as much of a view of what's going on the field, and they have what looks to be open water on the rest of this field. So more than 3 seconds to the second place crew. Brown's been kind of quietly moving, so Cal needs to keep an eye on them. Cal is the boat that is next to the Michigan crew, so the very second from the top, if you're looking at the screen. Rutgers is the crew that's in between there and Brown, but Brown is on the advance. You can see the energy in their bodies that tells us kind of from where we watch. We don't know what's going on inside their heads, but it looks like they have energy that will help propel the boat to give it more speed when the last 500 comes.
And I want to keep an eye on the race between Rutgers and Penn, because Penn did have a slight advantage over Rutgers, but Rutgers, I think, is going to be pretty lethal in the back half of this race. They are also maybe using that quiet but deadly energy from Brown to get back up into the 4th position.
And some things that athletes said over the weekend was getting to race on 6 lanes across like this. You feed off of the energy in other boats, let alone that your teammates in the hull with you. So using other boats to help propel you forward is certainly something that happens here when you have this many high caliber crews on the water together. Michigan's still out in front. Brown on the move. Cal, those are your top three. Penn still over here as well, still ahead of Syracuse. But again, still enough race left to be raced. Michigan looks to be totally internal in their bubble right now, just continuing to play their game, race their race.
I know, and then what's going to happen between California and Brown? Because they're like middle of that lane or the race course is Brown. California still has that advantage, but we know that Brown likes to wind it up. They can really race those higher stroke rates when they need to. But we also know that California is rowing a little bit lower stroke rate, so maybe they've got another gear coming into this last 500.
I was going to say, it looked like Cal heard you when you said, what's the question? Are they going to answer it? Because you could see some energy start to increase on those out of the athletes in that boat. Brown is certainly on the move and in a position to take at least top two. Will Michigan feel it, or will they continue to push out ahead? Brown and Cal are there. California are the two crews that are looking at second and third right now. Penn hasn't made a big move at this point, hasn't really pushed back into that, but the steamroller right now seems to be Brown, but Cal is answering.
Cruiser coming along the spectator shore. Volume is increasing from the fans as they're cheering it on. But as Cruiser now within the last 10 strokes, it is Michigan. Michigan is leading this, and it's close between Brown and California. Brown is just a little bit of ahead. It is going to be Brown in second, California in third. Rutgers snuck in over Pennsylvania, and then following Pennsylvania is Syracuse. So again, quiet, but Brown just kept ticking and ticking and ticking. And then Rutgers just used that momentum as well, and both those crews, they really had that gear to wind up, and I think that was the difference maker of what placement they got over Penn with that last 300-meter sprint. But Michigan, wire to wire, well done.
Yeah. You know, you say the sneak attack there, sort of. We've kind of said that a little bit about numerous crews this weekend, and I feel like that is something that is a positive trend in women's rowing at this level over the years, as you see full 2,000-meter races out of everyone, meaning that it's very professionally developed, where you can see how the training is taking effect, where the fitness is there, the technique is coming along, that's allowing the efficiency of the crews to really develop a race, rather than seeing, some incredible something happen at one particular point. It's just, this is a part of our race plan. We execute it, and we just keep on trucking.
So here we go. This is the grand final of the four, and it did have a start, but they had to get it called back, and we see now that crews are spinning in place, going to then back into their stake boats, tell themselves to breathe, and restart. We will have a replay of the start of the final. The first start is going to come up shortly. So this is a replay. This is what happened a couple minutes ago. The start took off, and we will wait until the official now on the right-hand side of the screen is coming on. We'll see if we can see anything, but we're just not sure what. But it did happen within the first 100 or so. Again, we talked about this yesterday. I think the officials tried to stop it sooner. One crew responded faster, but there was a little, is this for real? It's definitely a nerve-wracking experience. But now crews, their job is to hit the reset button. So lane 5, Texas, has a couple more backing strokes of maneuvers. I think they just got locked on. Remember, from this vantage point, lane 6 is on the left, lane 1 is on the right. So crews now just have to take a deep breath, wait for the officials to do their job and remake the alignment happen. And then we get a do-over.
So this is the grand final. These are for the most points in the country. There are 5 teams that have all 3 of their boats in grand finals. So there are 5 teams that are certainly tallying points one by one as these races come down. This is also 4 of the same teams that we saw here last year in this event. So seeing the trends in rising in speed and maintaining that speed over time is also starting to happen as well.
So in the shot here is just barely is Stanford on the left-hand side of your screen. That's lane 6. Then Texas is going to be in lane 5. Yale in lane 4. Princeton lane 3. Tennessee on the far right-hand side is in lane 2. And on the farthest side of the screen is Washington, lane 1. So lane 6 on the left, yes, lane 6 on the left, lane 1 on the right. There's zero movement from the boats, which I like as a coxswain. You don't have to do any maintenance between the blades. Everyone's just sitting. And here we go, grand final. A national champion of the 4 is about to be decided.
And expect it to be hot, tight racing all the way down the course of the 6 crews that are on the field. It's Tennessee and Washington who are the crews that were not part of this from last year's racing. So those are the 2 crews, just by virtue of being in this race right now, are already on board to put more points on the board for their team than they had last year. Tennessee was not here last year, so that's a major story right there as well. Huge speed improvement by that entire program as this season, certainly from last year. So look for them to produce speed. We've seen them have speed already throughout the weekend. In lane 5, it looks like Texas, who we know to have a quick start. That's the white hull, white blades. Second from your left is a quick starter, so is Tennessee, as well as Washington over there. They just seem to be steamrolling, positive snowballing throughout the course of the last couple of weeks and certainly the last 2 days. Right now, Texas, Washington, Tennessee, the fastest off the start. But again, as these boats lengthen out to their base rhythm, they're going to find more speed, more distance per stroke. So look for it to, okay, whoever jumps out in front, certainly we'll see pressure put on by the other crews. Lane 6, Stanford right now as well on the move now that they are lengthening into their base.
And it was Stanford who had the fastest heat time, and Texas with the fastest time out of the semis. So that battle to be expected as it comes down the course.
Texas at a 36. They are still your leaders into this first 500. And also out of lane 6, Stanford is at a 36. So with flat water, these athletes can just open it up full throttle. They're going to be attacking into this first 1,000.
Texas was your winner in this event last year. They took the crown in the 4, and so seeing them out in front, they are certainly looking to, there's no way to improve upon that from last year. They're certainly looking to have their best race and see if they can take the crown again in this event. Texas, our early leader, still out in front, but very, very close with Washington still out there. Washington with a slight margin over Tennessee right now. Stanford looking to move up just a hair on Texas. So Stanford, Tennessee, and Washington. And now, as I say that, Princeton is also looking like they're making a move, which is bringing Yale along. So we have to put 6 names in the hat right now, but Texas still out in front.
So we've got a lot of bottom pressure. I love it. Princeton is pushing the pace from lane number 3. Yale is also, those 2 middle boats, they're making everybody a little uncomfortable. So as they kind of have that pressure, is Stanford going to respond? Texas is almost 3/4 of a length in the lead. And now it's going to be interesting between lane number 2, the farthest on the right-hand screen is Tennessee. Tennessee is now making a challenge to Stanford. Stanford and Tennessee going back and forth, but only about a foot behind Tennessee. Yes, that yellow boat on the right-hand side of the screen, and that is Washington. Look out also for Princeton. Princeton has a lot of momentum out of lane 3.
Washington had the advantage over Tennessee there for a little bit, rowing a mature early portion of the race. Tennessee staying patient, though. This is a new experience for a lot of these athletes, being this far up in these programs, like showing the speed, wearing these Tennessee colors. So Tennessee in orange in the dark hull, Washington white blades, yellow hull. Those are your 2 closest to screen. Texas still out in front. They were the fastest through the semifinal. They had the fastest speed out of the semifinal. Stanford had the 2nd fastest speed out of the semifinal, but they are a length ninth down to Texas right now. Princeton there, it looks to be vying for trading spots with Washington, as they are very slightly, you can see just almost imperceptibly that they are moving faster than several of the other crews on the field right now. It's not feet per stroke, but it is inches per stroke, and it looks as though maybe they're making a push right now because they are pushing into Tennessee's lead at this moment. That is Princeton on the move, pushing into the lead that Tennessee has over them. But Texas kind of doing what Michigan did a few moments ago, where they got themselves out in front, and that allows you to maintain your confidence down the course to continue to stay in your rhythm. It makes it a little less stressful when you can see, as the rower in the boat, the entire field from where you sit.
So you've got Stanford, Tennessee kind of going for that second position. Princeton right next to Tennessee out of lane 3. They're starting to raise the rate a little bit. Second is up for grabs, and Washington is just falling a little bit off the pace compared to Tennessee. They just need to keep that overlap, but the window is open for second place.
It is.
Tennessee is inching and inching for it, but I mean, Stanford is pretty looking good on lane number 6 on the far side, but they got to make sure they keep an eye on Princeton.
About 500 meters to go here. Texas out by open water, more than 3 seconds of a lead for them on whom the second placed boat. It looks like between Tennessee, Princeton, and Stanford, that's who is vying for places 2, 3, and 4 right now. Princeton had the energy. It looked like they had the momentum compared to Tennessee right now. Stanford, we have to be patient all the way down the line because they seem to be very patient, very internal, very mindful of what they're doing, and then so look for them to ramp it up no matter where they are and what it can do for them. They could sprint and it could move them certainly a lot even at the end of the race. Princeton though, momentum with them.
Yeah, lots of momentum here in that Princeton boat right now. Texas way out in front, open water for them over the rest of the field. What a place of confidence to be able to look down at the rest of the field and say, ladies, we've got this, let's go. Right now, Stanford being challenged by Princeton and Tennessee. Those two crews, the advantage there is that Princeton and Tennessee are side by side. They're right next to each other. They can feel each other's energy. So they really are generating a lot of momentum as we come into these final strokes. Stanford on the shore closest to us has got to watch out for Princeton because they are on the move. The Tigers there taking it up, rates coming up. They have now pulled ahead of Tennessee, pulled ahead of Stanford. Keep an eye on Princeton as they come charging to the line, but right now the Longhorns looking like they have this race wrapped up, looking golden here, the Longhorns, as they come into the final strokes. This is a movement towards a national championship, and in this boat, these ladies are going to look forward to taking home a trophy. The Longhorns right now crossing over, taking this win almost from start to finish. Princeton now being challenged by Stanford all the way to the line. Princeton just getting that second place position. Stanford in third. Yale in fourth. Tennessee in fifth. And then here comes Washington.
Boy, you know, the head coaches are back there tallying points right now, and they're looking to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They want to put as many points as they can in every crew. So you talked about being gold. Texas looking golden right now. Wrapped around their long horns are the 22 points up for grabs towards the
horns
team
up
total.
Right there as they cross over the line. What a great feeling as they can look back at their teammates on the shoreline. Feel good about that start.
How good was that last 500? There was so many question marks on how this was going to play out, and it just, whoever believes in their race plan and whoever just is gutsy, and Princeton just wound it up. All right, here we go.
We are already underway. We're already underway here in the B level or the petite level final for the second eights. Right now in lane 1, Virginia. Lane 2, Pennsylvania. Lane 3, Brown. Lane 4, Ohio State. Lane 5, Michigan. And lane 6, California. So California in the lane closest to us on the shoreline, with Michigan right next to them. Far shore is going to be Virginia. So right now we've got a lot of overlap here as we come into the first 300 meters. So we've got a clean start. All boats rowing well and still quite a bit of overlap, but your early leader is going to come out of lane 5. That is Michigan. Michigan right now sitting about 2 seats over Cal. Cal sitting maybe 3 seats over your third place crew, which to my eye is going to be Brown.
Yeah, Virginia and Penn, they definitely had a good first 20 strokes as well. Lane 2 is Pennsylvania. They were kind of neck and neck with Michigan as they were exploding off of, the first 250 meters. But now that adrenaline is probably kind of working through their systems, this is where true speed comes into play. First 500 is done, and margins are getting exciting. We've got still, remember, Virginia is out in lane 1. They're on the right-hand side of the screen. Lane 2 is Pennsylvania. But look how close Brown is. Brown is slightly behind Pennsylvania, but Michigan out of lane 5 on the left-hand side of your screen. It's Michigan, Virginia, Pennsylvania. But we've got, just a couple feet back is lane number 3, which is Brown. And then California has about a half a length to go before they're level with Michigan. But Pennsylvania is not slowing down in lane 2.
Yeah, this race is tight as we come into almost the halfway point. Right now, Michigan still is your leader. But between Brown, Pennsylvania, Virginia, California, really, really tight racing here. Hard to tell who exactly is in that second, third, fourth place position. Right now, I'm looking at 4 bow balls straight across.
It looked like Penn had a narrow margin over Brown. They've seen each other certainly earlier in the year, and that kind of put some pressure on the Brown crew. Michigan was our early leader, still out in front by a bit, but the fact that we have 4 boats nearly dead level across between California, between Brown, Virginia, Penn, and California, that is a very tight race. That's Brown. They're looking to be on the advance in this third 500 of the race, so that little bit of an edge that Penn had on them is not quite there. Virginia may have a slight margin, certainly over Penn as they cross, and it's nearly dead level with them and Brown. Brown just ahead of Virginia, Virginia just ahead of Penn. Michigan still out in front, and all 3 of those crews ahead of Cal, who's over on the inside lane. So Cal just behind the pace that Brown, Penn, and Virginia are pushing, and Brown certainly said, hey, go button time is happening right now. I know, Michigan, you've been out in front, but we're going to do something about that right now.
Big surge here by Brown as they come into just past the halfway point. So Michigan still in the lead, but Brown pushing their nose just a little bit further in to Michigan's lead. Right now, it does look like Virginia is in that third place position, sitting just a couple of seats over Penn. Penn sitting maybe a couple of seats over California on the closest shore, and then Ohio State in 6th. But Michigan now, Michigan taking up the rate, seeing if they can just hold on to that lead position, but Brown is pushing them so hard. Virginia now also moving.
And out of lane number 6, which is the closest or the farthest from the screen, the top of the screen, California, you cannot forget about them. They had the fastest qualifying time. That's why they're in that lane. Can they use the energy from Michigan? But Brown has that second. Virginia, Brown, this is so amazing.
So we know right now the top 4 are going to be Michigan, potentially Brown, Virginia, very tight. Cal on the move, though. You could see the bodies just started to move a little bit more uniform, a little bit more in unison, and with some energy, too. So seeing like they're just kind of dialing in the ends of the stroke with their bodies to be tighter and more efficient and effective. Michigan felt the push that Brown had, but Brown still on the move ever so slightly. Virginia certainly over Penn right now. Virginia looking to put some pressure on Brown, go with them. Stroke rate strategies are very different between those 2 crews. Brown in the yellow hull certainly with a higher stroke rate than just about everyone else on the water right now, but you can see the Michigan blades are a little higher off the water, but you can just see the dynamic pressure of the legs as they are looking to throw the boat along with their legs.
And I've got Virginia clocked at 38 strokes a minute, Brown slightly higher at 39. I've got Michigan at 38 strokes a minute. Those right now look to be your top 3 crews. Michigan still out in front, trying to extend their lead just a little bit over Brown. Brown charging so hard here, but Virginia also on the move. Virginia looking to pull level with Brown. California there in that 4th place position. Penn in 5th. Ohio State just a little bit off the back there in 6th, but still within contact.
all the way to the line, less than 250 meters to go. Brown certainly has some energy and acceleration in their hull. They are, even though they were the highest rated crew a few moments ago, they are elevating it yet again and taking the boat with them. Cal is looking to sprint also, which is means that the Virginia coxswain needs to know what's going over on the far shore to make sure that they stay up and in it. Michigan still out in front, sprinting very hard. You can see their rate went up, and so did the power in the legs. Brown on the pounce. Virginia top three. Cal still in there as well. So those are your your forward. Look at Penn now has the advantage over Ohio State, still looking to sprint. Michigan coming across by about a half of a length over second place Brown, who has Virginia by just a narrow margin. Contact across the board.
Look at this, all the way
Cal
across.
narrowly. Talk about sneak attacks. Penn over on the far side ahead of Cal, and Cal just narrowly over Ohio State. Ohio State hung in there the entire time and nearly came in a matter of feet.
And your eyes might be better than mine, Lindsay, because that was a really tough one to see there at the finish. Again, go to regatta.com for official results. And we are going to take a look here at what the times are as they come across. It does look like Michigan winning in a time of 6:31.3, with Brown 6:33.1.
Ohio State.
Yeah, great,
I mean,
tight racing here.
They were behind, or technically six, maybe the whole time until the sprint.
And that was Virginia in a time of 6:34.0 for that third place position. But fourth, that was the one that was tough to see. That was Penn, 6:35.4 for Pennsylvania in fourth. Looks like Ohio in fifth and California in sixth. And we have a start.
So this is the varsity 8, or excuse me, the second 8 grand final. In lane number 1, Tennessee. Lane 2, Princeton. Lane 3, Yale. Lane 4, Texas. Lane 5, Stanford. And lane 6, Washington. Lane 6 is on the left. Lane 1 is on your right. We've got bows across. Stanford has maybe that slight advantage. Texas is going with them. They are in 5 and 4. So as we get this side view angle, Stanford, very, very explosive start. Looking through the line, Texas is saying, you know, we're going to cover them. We're going to go right with them. Washington has this yellow boat right in front of us in lane number 6. But it is Stanford. Texas is transitioning down into their length and base, and they are now pushing hard. But keep looking through the field, because those orange top unisuits, that's Tennessee, and they are like sneakily going, making those transitions, and they're kind of neck and neck with Washington. But Stanford, Texas, that's been the story, and this is all the big question mark. We know how the 4s did. Now, how are the second 8s going to play out in this grand, or this championship team final situation?
Yeah, first 500 meters gone. Hot start there by Tennessee over in lane 1. And right now it is looking like your leader is going to come out of lane 2. That's Stanford. Stanford sitting maybe just a half a seat over Texas. And then in the third place position, you can see that orange moving at you. That is Tennessee. In fourth, it's going to be Yale. And then finally, University of Washington, followed by Princeton. So Princeton now occupying that sixth place position. But lots going to happen in the second 500 as we come up to the halfway point. We know that third 500, that's where a lot of change is going to happen.
What is it, 2 seats? 2 seats separating
everybody
in the field. Texas is charging, owning that 2 seats. Do they want to extend? But Stanford is covering them. Stanford now is trading places, and they're pushing their bow into the lead. So back and forth, surging the angle. You see now those buoys align. Stanford's just a hair, but look at that surge now, because you know that when a coxswain says we need 1 seat to be level, we need half a seat to be level, when those rowers respond, this is what we're having. We're having a call and response, so to speak, between Stanford and Texas.
Yeah, that number 1 and number 2 seed really playing out here, because those two crews, Texas with a slight advantage right now over Stanford to our eye, so just by maybe a couple of seats, but those boats just trading punches back and forth. Tennessee still in that third place position, but look out for Washington. Washington just surging here as we come towards this third 500. So Washington now pushing themselves into the fourth place position, with Yale in fifth, Princeton continuing in sixth. But up front, Texas still holding on to a slight lead. I'm going to give them maybe a bow ball right now. Look at this, Mary.
Wow, this is a fantastic race, because Texas was about 0.2 behind Stanford in their previous time that they saw them. Stanford had the fastest semi-time. Yale had the fastest heat time. There's been a lot of speed changes throughout the regatta, but it does look like Texas is got a little bit of momentum here ahead of Stanford just by a hair here.
So Tennessee is in that third position, but will Washington use that momentum, because it's kind of like two races within a race. We've got Tennessee looking across for Washington, but they're also looking through it because they're looking at Texas, they're looking at Stanford. Stanford is your leader. They're now kind of didn't freak out when Texas was pushing hard. They found an answer, and now they're shoving their bow into the lead. Stanford is your leader, closely followed by Texas. This third 500, who's going to, especially the second half of the third 500, who's going to be brave and just crush it? we do know a mantra of Texas in that second half, or in the third 500, embrace the suck.
Gotta say, we can't discount Tennessee here either. They're hanging right in there as well in the orange in the top three. They are moving out there, and talk about embrace the suck. We talked to some of the athletes, and it's working, it's hard, but it's worth it, and that's how this is. Tennessee's on the move, 500 meters to go. Very tight between Tennessee and Stanford right now, because it does look like Texas is the leader right now in lane 4. Stanford just off of them. You could see about 300 meters at least to go. It was almost like, shoot, are they sprinting already? Knowing what is on the line. Texas out in front, Stanford, Tennessee sneak attack. Let's use that again. Black Hole orange unis on the far right of the screen in the hunt for top 3, if not top 2.
Stanford had the first 1,000 fastest time, but now Texas clocked the fastest third 500.
And you can see it made the difference in the two holes right there. They are going stroke for stroke. Texas and Stanford there. They, of course, have won national championships. Stanford won the national championship last year. Texas took 4th in this, but won the year before that. They both are familiar with being in this position. Again, Tennessee is right there with them, though, in that dark hole. Is Tennessee going to upset the apple cart in the second? Varsity 8, top 6 places in the country right now are happening before your eyes. Stanford on the move, looking like they are about to overtake Texas if they haven't already. What is happening on the far shore with Tennessee, though? But Stanford just barely ahead of Texas at the moment. Tennessee in the race as well. So Stanford, Texas, Tennessee fighting hard. Crews out of the West Coast, crews out of Texas and Tennessee are the ones that are coming across 1, 2, 3 in the second. Varsity Stanford made a huge move there in the last 250-300. Half length, almost 3/4 for Stanford over Texas. Tennessee with contact bell ball on the coxswain of the Texas hull. On the inside lane, Washington may have snuck in there ahead of Yale, with Princeton rounding out the field. Stanford took it last year. They take it again this year in the second. Varsity 8. Big points for that team right there.
When there are lead changes in the grand final, how good is that?
Tennessee, again, huge adjustment programmatically this year. They were not here last year, and here they are coming across the line in third in the second. Varsity 8.
So the second 8s, we're done. Now we're moving on to the last 2 races.
I got to say, you know, we talked to some people, too, about what does success mean to you, and most of the athletes responded with, when we know that we have raced our hearts out and done the best that we could, which is great to hear, because what else is there?
And looking over at the Texas 2V, they definitely were grabbing onto their hands. They looked very, very satisfied with that performance. So here we go.
And up at the start for the first states, the petite final. In lane 1, Ohio State. Lane 2, Syracuse. Pennsylvania in lane 3. Lane 4, Yale. Michigan in lane 5. 6, California.
You know, we've mentioned points a few times. For those of you who don't know what that means, each boat scores points. So you can have a national champion in the individual crew, but then those accumulate for the team title itself. So that's what we mean by the point tally. We have a start in the petite final, the second level final in the varsity 8s. This is for places 7 through 12 in the country in the varsity 8s. Gosh, quick start in those first couple of strokes. it looks like California there has a very quick start so far, as they are just motoring along. Nice high stroke rate doesn't necessarily move the boat, but for them it certainly is. Over on the far left of your picture, or the near side shore, it looks like California as well as Yale moving quickly off of the start, and also over there in lane 2 is Syracuse. Keep an eye on the orange vests there. Crew, they are moving that hull quite quickly off of the start as well. Right now, that quick start that we saw out of California, that was a very quick start off of the line, but it looks like Yale has picked it up as well. We've seen them have quick starts in their various boat classes over the course of the weekend, and as soon as I say that, everyone, as they lengthen off of their start sequences, it's allowing them to kind of trade places here. I would say the only crew that is maybe 2 feet off of the speed right now might be the crews in lane 1 out there. It's Ohio State over on the far side, just a little bit off of the pace of our leaders at this point. And then maybe in lane 5, Michigan is just a hair behind California right now. But again, everyone is still very much dead level with 550 meters down in the race. Or I should say very much in the race with 550 meters down in the race.
Yeah, it's super close between Syracuse and Penn out of lanes 2 and 3. They're definitely looking across at each other, calling seats, but also looking through the field over to lane number 6, which is California. So the bow, don't pay attention to the bow numbers on the boats. Do not get tricked, yes, because California is your closest boat right here in lane number 6. But here comes Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
they are charging.
Certainly charging.
Out of lane 3.
That was Syracuse in the orange over there. They were the winner of the ACC. They had the lead for a moment. Cal had the lead, Syracuse had the lead, and Penn is being patient there and moving with Syracuse. So talk about feeding off of the speed, off of the energy and the patterns of the hulls around you. That helps make sure that you stay in the race. You know, every crew has a different MO. Maybe, okay, we need to be top 2 or top 4 at this point, and then we'll flip the switch and off we go. So some crews that maybe don't have the fastest first 250, when they really make up for it with their base and they're able to have that mature race of it's okay that we're down by a deck or we're down by a few seats, we know we've got a full 2,000 meters in us, and that's truly mature racing.
Lane number 6, California. I don't know what they did in the last 10 strokes, but they decided, you know, bow balls across is fun for us, but as spectators, but as student athletes and competitors, we're going to make a first statement. So they just have now pushed a bow deck into the lead.
And it almost based on the angle, based on the spacing that you see, we are now 1,000 meters down. They have half a length on the field. As the times show us, it tells us about a half of a length for Cal over Syracuse right now, followed by Penn. Syracuse by a narrow margin over Penn. Syracuse in lane 2, so that's now is that we changed our angle. In lane 2 is the second from the bottom. Penn is the third from the bottom. California in the very top of picture. And gosh, I got to see the same motion that I saw in the 2V is happening in Cal right now. You can see the light color is helping us against the dark, nice, flat, calm water that's on the race course today. Show us the energy that starts to happen in the crew right around this point in the race. Same thing in the 2V.
I've been keeping my eye on lane number 5. We haven't said Michigan's name yet, but they've just been kind of hanging out, and they are now challenging Syracuse. So Syracuse is kind of charging. It's easy to see because they've got those orange top, suits. But California, Syracuse, and just at the bottom of that screen is Ohio State's bow deck. But
and keep an eye on Ohio State, because we just saw in the previous race
they have closing speed.
Yes, they certainly have closing speed. That is a fantastic way to put it. California's second half of the race, they are pouring it on because they were sitting for a minute and now they are turning it up. So 500 meters to go is about to happen for all crews. Syracuse looks like they are on the move right now as I speak. As the line comes across, Cal in first, Syracuse very, very tight with Michigan. Looks like those two crews went together very, very closely as they crossed the line tight with, okay, Syracuse, let's take, okay. Less than 500 meters to go for all crews. Look for them all to sprint very soon, because this is for places 7 through 12 in the country in the first varsity 8, second to last race of the day.
So California made a gutsy move in the middle part of the race. Did it cost them their last 400-meter closing speed? Because Syracuse is turning it up, Michigan is turning it up, and just coming into the screen, they have overlap is Ohio State. Pennsylvania is on the other side of Syracuse. Stroke rates are increasing, margins are decreasing.
The only boat slightly off the pace right now is Yale in the back of the picture there, but everyone is charging hard, doing the best they can with the race that they have. Syracuse on the move here. Syracuse won the ACC championship for the first time in program history, and they look like they are setting the tone for the ACC right now, saying, hey, we got speed down there, and it is Syracuse. Looks like they have a narrow margin over long leaders California. It's going to come tight. Cal might have the lead back. Looks like Cal might have the lead back from Syracuse by a foot or so as they come down to the line. Cal charging hard, took the lead back from Syracuse. Syracuse still has the margin over Michigan. Michigan narrowly in third, but tight, too tight to call between Michigan and Penn over on the far side of the course. Those are the, 5 crews that came across. Someone must have disappeared in my eye there. Penn over on the far side of the course as well. So you have Syracuse out there. Ohio State, talk about closing speed. You mentioned, Mary, Ohio State definitely has closing speed. Go to regattatiming.com.
Places 7 through 12.
Look at the times and the margins.
Separated by feet.
Yes.
Inches.
Potentially
Look
Cal
at
came
619,
across,
620,
followed by
620.
Syracuse, Michigan, Penn. Ohio State snuck in there 0.2 of a second. That was closing speed. It looked like 4 boats, but it was 5. That is how tight that race was.
Are we ready?
Oh! Was that a yes?
People watching at home, we got a big response from the crowd. Everybody is ready for what is going to come down. The final race of the NCAA championships. It is the varsity 8s, the top dogs, the number ones of their respective teams.
And who we have in this field. In lane 1, Washington. Lane 2, Brown. Lane 3. Oh, Princeton, we're looking at, actually, we're going to divert here to the current point totals for the team. Because, again, this race here will determine some of the shuffling that may or may not occur. We do currently have a tie between Stanford and Texas point-wise. Very, very close there with the following crews of Tennessee with 58, Washington with 55, and Princeton with another 55. But we do have a start now in the varsity 8 here. This is places 1 through 6 in the country, but a team and a boat will be crowned champions here in this race. Lane 1, Washington, Brown in lane 2, Princeton in lane 3, Tennessee 4, Texas in lane 5, Stanford in lane 6.
All crews have attacked the start. Explosion everywhere. Lane number 3 is Princeton. They are charging by inches, followed closely by Brown. Looking through is the lanes number 2 and 3. But, I mean, the story is between Texas and Stanford, but I think Brown and Princeton want to rewrite some storylines.
They want to make some people nervous by going for it very, very early. So Tennessee, Brown, and Princeton, quick starts out there. It looks like Stanford had a tiny margin over Texas, 250 meters into the race, but we know that every crew out on the course has a plan. All crews have closing speed. All crews have base rhythms. The story of that tie with the points is between Texas and Stanford here. Whomever comes across ahead, whether it's first, second, fifth, sixth, whichever that is, that will most likely determine who takes the national title as well. Texas may have taken that lead back from Stanford by the tiniest margin. Texas looking to inch themselves into the lead.
It does look like Princeton has made a very good move there. It looks like they've taken up the rate. You see Bow Woman looking across over at the bows next to her. It does look like that bow ball is out in front, but look at that charge coming out of the Texas crew. Stanford hanging with them here. It is going to be a fight all the way down the course, and that we know it. Princeton still kind of edging out that bow ball ever ahead. Hard to tell with the angle here, but it could be Texas here at this point.
Second 500 is going to set the stage. Who had that foundation of a 500, but who can make the conversion into speed? And Texas and Stanford are now inching. Texas has the lead by a foot. We love these parallel buoy lines because we know that now Princeton and Stanford are trading blows for that second position, but we're talking inches, as now Princeton is starting some momentum, Stanford starting some momentum. We're talking inches between Texas, Stanford, and Princeton. Those are your top three. But number 4, we cannot forget about Tennessee. That's that dark boat just on the other side of Texas. But here comes Stanford. Here comes Texas.
All business there in the Stanford boat, clocking 9 to 5. Here they're trying to get down the line here. Their bow ball just sitting about a few feet off of Texas.
You can see Texas staying very calm in what they're doing, though. It's almost like, where is this speed coming? It's coming out of the legs. There's no grand dramatics coming from the hips up here. They are just staying in their rhythm and really shoving it along. That's allowing them to dial their rhythm in together. Texas now inching out little by little with the lead over Stanford. Princeton rating a little higher over on the farther side of the course. And I got to say, as we've been talking, that dark hole of Tennessee is working against Princeton right now. They are chipping them away one by one. Tennessee on the advance on Princeton. That's for 3rd and 4th place right now. Looks like that might invert. Texas still advantage over Stanford. Stanford has something to say about it, though.
Third 500, we talked about asking some certain athletes, what is your favorite part? 6th seed of Texas is Anna Jensen, and she said, third 500, that's my favorite. That's when I get to go. So is Anna Jensen going to shove her legs down, or is her teammates going to respond? Are they going to inch away from Stanford, or does Stanford have another answer?
You know, Texas making that third 500 their favorite part of this race. That's where you can see them just taking the fitness to a new level, and also the energy. I'm taking a look at these bodies. There's a lot of emotion. There's so much energy. They embrace the difficult times. So throughout the course of the season, pouring themselves into making sure they are doing the hardest thing possible so that race day looks like this, right? So as the blades go in the water, just inching themselves a little bit further away from Stanford, inching themselves further away from Tennessee and Princeton. Princeton and Tennessee almost just side by side, but slight advantage right now for that 3rd place spot is going to go to Tennessee.
I know places 3rd through 6. We can barely see them from the left-hand side of the screen. Tennessee is just charging and trying to get that 3rd position or overtaking 2nd, but Stanford still owns 2nd. Texas now is in momentum. They see that finish line. They know what's coming, and they are now just driving every stroke, extending their lead over Stanford.
Yeah, you can take a look at the emotion in Carly Leganzowski, the coxswain there for the Texas boat. She is holding her body as still as possible, but you can almost feel that emotion coming off of the water as she's driving her crew towards that possible national championship. But take a look at Stanford. Stanford now closest to the shoreline. Stanford moving. Look at that bow ball as it continues to eat in to the Texas lead. This is going to be an incredible finish as we come down to the line. This is awesome. So who is going to be able to go into that pain cave a little bit further? Is it going to be Texas? Is it going to be Stanford? Tennessee right there. Princeton right there.
Princeton right there as well. Tennessee sprinted past them. The water is calm. The rain is pouring down on this race right now. Texas out in front, being pushed hard by Stanford as well. You can see the orange and the black hole there. That's Tennessee also charging hard, but Texas out in front at this present moment. Stanford in there. Stanford just took the 2V, but who is going to take the varsity? They look like they are still staying calm in that Texas hull. Texas out in front. Very narrow margin between Stanford and Tennessee. Just feet separate Stanford and Tennessee. Texas across in front, followed by unofficially Stanford by 2 feet over Tennessee, then Princeton, Yale, and over on the far side is Washington. There is no smoke, but holy smokes, no smoke because of the rain.
And look at Carly, that's the coxswain, just making splashes. If you're on site, you see the Texas team is storming the water. They're getting into the water, cheering on their teammates.
So I think Texas, they definitely went into that pain cave and then they just shut the door. Look at that. I mean, so much emotion coming out after a lot of these athletes with 4 or 5 years of experience under their belt. These are such deep programs between Stanford and Texas. We've got these athletes that have spent the majority of their collegiate career chasing after national championships and putting some in their pocket, trading back and forth, and this year belongs to Texas.
Matter of seconds. That was Princeton, Brown, and Washington over on the far side. Also tight race, gosh, between them.
Can we talk about the first 1,000? That first 1,000 and all the lead changes. I mean, Princeton was in the lead for a bit.
Can we talk about Tennessee? Can we talk about Tennessee on the podium? First time here at the NCAA championships in I don't know how many years.
The flag, number one supporter.
Mega fan.
He trains on the same body of water, Longhorn Nation. He was not going to come, and Cox and Carly said, you have to come. You have to come cheer us on, and he booked his ticket. He gets to wave the flag.
Yes.
Gosh, every year the racing just gets tighter and tighter. The training, everything about it. Goodness. Imagine next year. You can see the cheers of the fans, everybody supporting, everybody proud of the race that they just put down. I feel like we're going to see a lot more people hopping in the lake here in Ohio.
And the rain is coming. The rain did hold off,
it
but
waited.
Now a lot of umbrellas are out on.
Tears of joy there. The rain may be wiping away those tears. Now we do have an update on the total for the team. Right now it does look like Texas is your team champion. 3 points over Stanford. So Texas right now leading the team points with 130. Stanford in second with 127 points. And Tennessee is your third place team with 118 points. Princeton in fourth with 112, and Washington in fifth with 106 points. Well done to all crews. What an amazing regatta that we've had this past 3 days here at beautiful Lake Harsha in Bethel, Ohio. This is one for the ages, and one that one of our coaches called the most competitive championship that she has seen ever.
It's amazing. One of the other comments that people made was, it's the grand final. There is no bad placement.
There is not.
It is year over year just faster and faster.
And here we see the final team totals. Texas with 130 points, Stanford with 127, Tennessee 118, Princeton 112, and Washington with 106. That's your top 6.
Incredible racing, ladies. Everyone just well done. We'll be signing off until our award ceremony, which is coming up here fairly soon. I'll give you an update on the timing on that. But for now, we'll be signing off. This is Adrienne McConnell with my announcers, my co-announcers, Grace Latz, Mary Whipple, and Lindsay Shoup.
And just try to blow it out if there's any like standing water. If there's any just hanging down.
Plug it in right.
Fans, your attention, please. It's our pleasure to begin the awards ceremony for the 2024 Division I NCAA Women's Rowing Championship. First, let's congratulate all the teams on their outstanding achievements. Presenting the awards today are members of the NCAA's Division I Women's Rowing Committee. But first, we would like to present the Elite 90 Award. This award was instituted to recognize the true essence of the student athlete by honoring the individual who has reached the pinnacle of competition, at the national championship level of their sport, while also achieving the highest academic standard among their peers. The Elite 90 is presented to the student athlete with the highest cumulative grade point average participating at the finals for each of the NCAA's 90 championships. The recipient of the Elite 90 award for the Division I Women's Rowing Championship with a 4.0 GPA in Environmental and Sustainability Sciences is Windsor Mon of Northeastern University.
And now, moving into this weekend's competition, the third place boat in this year's NCAA Division I 4 Grand Final, the Stanford Cardinal. Next, the second place boat in this year's NCAA Division I 4 Grand Final, the Princeton Tigers. And now, the 2024 NCAA Division I 4 Grand Champion, the Texas Longhorns. Now let's introduce the 2v8s. First, the third place boat in this year's NCAA Division I 2v8 Grand Final, the Tennessee Volunteers. Next, the second place boat in this year's NCAA Division I Second Eights Grand Final, the Texas Longhorns. And now the 2024 NCAA Division I Second Eight Grand Final champion, the Stanford Cardinal. And finally, let's introduce the Varsity Eights. The third place boat in this year's NCAA Division I Varsity 8 Grand Final, the Tennessee Volunteers. The second place boat in this year's NCAA Division I Varsity Grand Final, the Stanford Cardinal. And now the 2024 NCAA Division I Varsity 8 Grand Final champion, the Texas Longhorns.
And now for the team awards. First, the third place team in this year's NCAA Division I Rowing Championship, the Tennessee Volunteers. Will the team and coaching staff please come forward? Let's give all these outstanding student athletes, coaches, and staff a round of applause. Now, for the runner-up team in this year's NCAA Division I Rowing Championship, the Stanford Cardinal with the entire team coaching staff, please come forward to accept your trophy. Let's give all these outstanding student athletes, coaches, and staff a huge round of applause. And now, the 2024 NCAA Division I Rowing National Champion, the Texas Longhorns. Congratulations to the Texas Longhorns, your 2024 NCAA Division I Rowing National Champions. On behalf of the NCAA and our host, Marietta College, Discover Claremont and Vincent Cincy, we thank you for your attendance at the 2024 NCAA Division I Rowing Championships.